Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hera TV. My name is Laleh Hancock, and I am so happy to be introducing you to a really incredible entrepreneur, mom, leader, Mairead Mackle. Welcome, Mairead.
Thank you very much, Laleh. Lovely to be here. Delighted to be invited on and talk to you about both, my enterprise and how we love to be involved with her.
Yeah. Well, what I love is that you have lots of different organizations that are working together to empower others. And I know that we may not get a chance today to talk about every single organization that you have, but I know that there's one special one that we're going to be highlighting a little bit today. It's called Evolved Women. But before we get there, our listeners, they want to know about you. They want to know more about kind of what was it that kick-started you? Was it something in your childhood or as an adult that actually inspired you to be who you are and to really be this incredible leader in the world? So can you give our listeners just a little bit about you and your background and kind of how Evolve Women came around?
Okay, yeah, surely. Yeah. Well, I suppose I grew up on a farm in Fermanagh, which is like a rural part of Ireland. And my parents were very much into education, never really thought about business, but for some reason I ended up running a business, after my first son was born. I'm now a mom of 7. So what happened was, because I realized the business that I'd started had a very restrictive model and it didn't suit me because, I wanted to be doing things with my family. I decided to look around and look at a new way of doing business. And that was really building leaders around me so that I had flexibility and freedom. So I suppose the founding principles of our enterprise, Tarasis Enterprise, is really flexibility and freedom. So what I did was I would call myself a values-based leader in the first instance. And what I looked around for is to find people who shared my values and created an incredible leadership team. So we now have a team of 1,200 people across the island of Ireland. We provide, I think, 6,000 calls for vulnerable people across our communities. And we provide 3,500 beds for people in housing crisis every single night. So that's the main core of our business. So I suppose from the start, we have an incredible leadership team and we have an incredible team of people out in the community who are doing good in the world. And from that, then, I suppose we didn't really talk 25 years ago when you started in business, like things like purpose and values weren't really something that we considered a lot. But then I came across a guy called John Maxwell, who he was an author of a book called 21 Laws of Irrefutable Leadership. And then it really resonated with me. That's exactly what we were as an organization, is we were values-based. So then we decided I took a trip to India actually about 10 years ago and was introduced to the whole idea of corporate social responsibility. So from that trip, we come back and we set up an organization called I Care Charity, which is about acts of kindness. And, every month across Ireland, we provide like acts of kindness within our operational regions. And then I suppose like when we really looked at, what we're about and our purpose as an organization, we discovered that our core values really were about, kindness and also equality. And because I suppose it's a predominantly female-led business and most of my board are women, we felt that there was a lot more that we could do for women in the world. And we felt a duty, especially I have 4 daughters and 3 sons, and to me, they're all equal. I wouldn't expect, I'd expect them all to get an equal right to education and have a voice and all that sort of stuff. So what I did was I thought my way of doing something different was to set up a community interest company or not-for-profit called Evolve Women. And Evolve Women really it's something we feel very passionate about. Started it 3 years ago, and we did a conference just last week, and we had Mary on our video as well, who's an amazing person, and I was delighted to have her part of it. So our mission in Evolve is really to create an equal world, because I believe that it's not that men and women are different or anything like that there. I believe that, when we can be viewed as equals and act as equals and sort of work together as equals in all aspects of life, I think that can bring us real power in the world. So it's really about men and women going on a journey together to achieve equality, and that's our mission. And I suppose, the other thing that Evolve is very passionate about is being an educational platform to call out inequality, because again, I did a TED talk on this last November, because what you see is that the law now is on our sides in a lot of countries, but it's culture and behaviour that needs to change. And we see that all around the world, that it's actually, we need to call out, the behavioural differences that are not making women equal. So Evolve's very passionate about all of that stuff. So what a brilliant conference last week. So and brilliant messages of just creating an equal society. And so that's a quick summary of me.
Yeah. And just look at even a few things that you mentioned, like, even having the children, like, you see things from a different perspective, even when you're talking about the adventures of traveling to India, to bring it's this willingness as a leader to always stay in the question of what else is required. I think very often some of these rules and regulations that aren't towards our benefit is that they stopped asking questions. They did one method, one system, one form and structure, and they kind of kept it going. And what you and your organization are doing are opening it up and giving it more light and saying, okay, guys, now what do we look at? How do we make it better? And I think that's one of the things that most people misunderstand when they think that there is any kind of conversation about women. They think it becomes that it's all about women. It's not. And Hera is not that either. One of the gifts of Hera is we actually have men in Hera as well, is that if we do empower the woman as well, what else is possible with her reach, with her family, her friends, her environment, and her communities, bringing that, so I think sometimes people misunderstand, and it's like, what will the world be like truly if we do have equality? We have people that can have choice. No longer, because you're a woman, you can't do this. Give them the choice if they want to do it, So I really love that. When you were talking about this event last week, I'm wondering, like, that Hera is building this incredible city called Hera City. And Hera City is for all. I mean, the whole thing to Hera is for us to be able to empower, humanity. And Hera City is going to be that. It's a reach for all of us in the communities to come together, men, women, children, And so I'm curious, what are your views of the future of Hera and the city that is desiring to be built in different countries?
Well, I suppose, first of all, is the name is fabulous, because isn't Hera the goddess of life and the protector of women? So, I mean, it's really good from the start. I mean, I think that, I do believe that, especially over the last number of years, I see that there is a lot more feminine energy in the world. And I think that we are at a time where feminine energy is ruling the world, dare I say, because I do see leadership, I suppose, like years ago, I mean, when women started to become leaders, they always felt, we lead the same as men and everything. But now, if you actually asked a woman, do you lead the same as a man? They say, no, we don't. We lead uniquely. We lead our own way. And I think that uniqueness within women leadership is really exactly what we need in the world today. And I'm not saying that there's anything against the male leaders. They're doing a great job, but there is a specific set of skills that women bring to the table that has to be recognized as being like really good for the home, really good for business, really good for communities and governments. And I think over the last year, especially with the pandemic, we've recognized, that those qualities like empathy and listening, those skills are the leaders of the future. And I think we're in a completely different world nowadays as well. The people, the power of traditional power of a few men at the top of an organization, wielding power is all gone. The power is now within the people. And we as even as citizens, when we feel passionate about something, we can have that power and make a difference within their own communities, even if it's just to make a difference in one person's life. And like, people are now feeling that, you know, the power is there, and recognizing that women have that power. But I think within Hera City, I think it would be amazing to see, you know, really good, visible female leaders, and recognize and appreciate the qualities that they bring to the table. I think that'll be a must and like a necessity. I think that, you know, if the society is, I suppose, if your society is being represented by, you know, the people that's in it, then you're going to get the female voice. Like, what do we do with childcare? You know, let's get women leading businesses and see, you know, let them, you know, succeed at that. Because they do say, I'm part of the Vital Voices Global Ambassadors program, where they look at grassroots leaders and try and, you know, bring them forward and mentor them. And really what you see is that when you help women and when you educate women, you're educating a whole community. Because even as a mother, like, you know, your whole interest in how you do the best for your children, and the children are the future of the world. So, you know, and a lot of women don't maybe see themselves as leaders, but if you look around communities across the world, it's women that's within those communities that are actually doing, you know, they have all those leadership qualities. So it's just elevating them to see themselves as leaders, which is what we want Evolve to be all about. And then within Hera City, then actually having them as leaders and having them as government officials and business, you know, women across the city.
Yeah, you know, like you mentioned it, I think that's the piece, is that even if you look into families, there's such a different dynamic now where so many more men are the stay-at-home. You know, I mean, most people are at home these days with COVID. The last year, everything's kind of changed, but like the rules changed many years ago. And it is the kindness and the caring that I think shined through in the last year, of organizations seeing that, like you said, that empathy that needed to be there, and the willingness to look and see what needs to change. You know, I think for so long, so much of leadership was, these are the best practices of leadership. This is how we do things. I mean, I'm a management consultant, and that used to be the talk 10 years ago. And in the last 5, 8 years, we no longer talk about it that way. The uniqueness is you being you, you know, and each person's going to be a different kind of leader. Their organization's going to require something different. And so it is about empowering each person to be more of them and to allow their gifts to shine, and not to make it be how it used to be. So, you know, I love it. I'm part of a program, you know, I have a program called Leaders of Tomorrow, and we include 8-year-olds in the program all the way to, you know, 100. And we have CEOs who learn from an 8-year-old, you know. I mean, it's because all of us have some awareness and creativity that once we come together, it's amazing what we can create together. So,
and your imagination as well. And I mean, if you look back, and somebody had mentioned this to me last week in the conference, if you actually look back at your 5-year-old child, you know, what you were really passionate about and the imagination that you had. And I mean, it still is within you. And it's just like, you know, letting that out and be creative, and, you know, take action. So it's not enough just to, I suppose, think about it, but take action on what your passions are. And if we all take action and call out, you know, poor behavior, then, you know, the world will be a better place.
yeah. So I'm curious, how did you find out about Hera? And is there something that stood out for you, to that synergy of what you're creating with Evolve Women? And I mean, everything. You're doing so many things. We just highlighted Evolve Women, and feel free to talk about the other great things that you're doing, because you're one amazing entrepreneur who is like got her reach everywhere.
Well, I met Mary, and I met Mary actually through a group that I'm involved in, a Powerful Women group, it's called, that was set up. And Mary reached out to me, and we had a Zoom call. It was great. I loved her energy. And then she told me all about Hera City. And then I suppose my interest really is because I have a building organization, and I was interested from that point of view as well, because we provide housing, and then we build home offices, and we build portable accommodation for crisis housing and things like that. So I just was interested in the whole concept. I have business interests in renewables as well, and I thought that was really interesting, the whole sustainability end of things. So all of the things that Mary talked to me about around Hera City, I just thought was a really exciting future, and I think that it would really. I think it would really, especially now, I suppose, in the last few weeks in the UK, we've seen that women are coming out in protest to reclaim the streets, because there's been like some very sad situations, and we've realised that statistically women are in a lot of cases not feeling safe on the streets. And we realise that that's just not, it shouldn't be like that. You as a woman, you should be able to walk down the street and be free to not walk in fear. So I think, again, Hera City could really tap into, the potential of creating a really safe space for women to walk down that street with confidence, and make sure that that they're safe, their children are safe. So I think it's a very exciting future, and add in all that feminine energy, and with men and women working together, I think it'd be amazing place to live and work.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I know that there's a few countries that are in conversation with us, and who's going to be the first is the one that I'm excited to find out about. As you know, with COVID, some things altered in terms of priority with different countries, but we're so excited to how many more people around the world are finding out about Hera, and the enthusiasm, and like you said, that place that brings us all together to know that we are honoring the community of, like, because each country is going to be different. It's going to have its own culture. It's going to require different things. So each Hera city in a different country is going to be a little bit different, but the uniting, bringing people together, that equalness, and also the empowerment of each other. Because one thing, when I met Marinella, who is the founder, and Mary, by the way, is Mary Pagana, who is one of our advisors, and we adore her. So hi, Mary. But when I met Marinella, I had a very exclusive event in Portugal. One of the key things when she shared it with me, as I said, listen, I spent my whole life going out there to empower all. And for me, I have done a lot for women specific, but it's never been about men against women, women against men. It truly is this uniting of bringing us together and the ways that we can work together and empower each other, because we all have different creative ideas. We have different ways of doing things. We have different ways of juggling things. And how can we partner together to create a greater world for all of us? And knowing, like you said, the youth and the next generation, how important they are in that. And the youth, they don't know separation. They really don't know until we teach them as adults. So it's each of us also taking on, that task of how can we empower our children to not see the separation, not to create the separation, but what are ways that we can bring us all together to really contribute to the greater world and to the greater planet. The planet doesn't need us separating at all. So
I think it's really, I said to you before, that it's important for women to have empowerment, and the way to empower women is to have pathways to prosperity, because traditionally what I had said, my business has been built on the founding principles of flexibility and freedom, but freedom is financial freedom. If more women had financial freedom, I think the world would be a better place. And so I think, like, whatever we can do to create pathways to prosperity, I think it's going to be like critical to give more power in the world. And I mean, I've been married for 30 years. I said I've 3 sons and 4 daughters. And we're very much, we have equality is what our family is all about. I want the same for my sons as my daughters. And I want the world to be like that. And that they're not feeling like harassed if they walk down the street, or they're not feeling they're not going to get a voice in their community or that job promotion just because they're a girl or whatever. So, I think that we have to do everything in our power to create financial empowerment. And by creating financial empowerment for the women of this world, then, that everybody will benefit. Families will benefit. Education, it's important, like, investing in girls' education. The United Nations have already, the research is all done to say that investing in women is good for, the world. So, and it's one of our sustainable goals. So, but I do think that we can never forget that we need pathways to prosperity. We need money in women's pockets, and that'll help like a lot of good to happen.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know about Ireland. I'm after a year of being gone, I'm actually in the US. I arrived last night and was just reminded the US, when we had like the dot coms go crazy and like every time there's been financial struggle in America, it's been the small, medium businesses that actually brought the economy back in place. And they're majority women owned, so that's the piece I was just reminded before our interview is how often people don't realize what's really going on behind the scenes. And empowering, like you said, this financial thing is actually one of my targets. I've been traveling around the world, educating people about financial wellness because it's a huge one. And most women don't even know they're allowed to know. They don't even know they're allowed to even have more information because they think, okay, that's what my spouse handles, or that's what my dad would do. And therefore, but like, there's always the excuse. But once they actually are given the tools, they realize one, it's not complex, but two, they've been doing it. They just never, ever acknowledge themselves for what they know about money and how it can be easy for us to educate ourselves, not just for, the financial awareness, but creating wealth as well, because we each need to do that. And it's not just about the amount of money in your bank account or in your investment accounts, but it's really creating that wealth in your life that allows you to think about today and your future. And I think that's the thing that I really loved about multiple organizations that you have is that you're continuously empowering them, not just to choose to help themselves get out of a situation now, but you are actually allowing them to have a future that they're creating that allows this sustainability to continue, the thriving to continue. So thank you so much for that. You
One
are
of the key
incredible.
things, yeah, one of the key things, Laleh, that I would say that is investing in women is the VC funding. And I don't know what it's like in America, but certainly in the UK, I think it's like 1% of VC funding goes to female founders. So that's something that we need to change as well. We need to get maybe more women in on the VC boards so that they can actually acknowledge what you say, because they're the backbone of the economy and they rebuild the economy. But we have to invest in those businesses to allow those women to scale, because without the VC funding, we're always being kept as very, a small business, whereas so many female businesses that I know want to scale but can't find the funding.
Yeah, definitely
That's something we certainly tackle.
Definitely an area for us to improve for sure, for a greater tomorrow for all of us.
Tomorrow, that's right. Yeah. All there to be done.
All right. I'm so grateful that we got a chance to meet you today. And I know we're going to have other conversations because this Hera TV is for us to highlight all the organizations. And we also want to keep in touch with you of what's going on with Evolve Women and the other programs that you're taking place with. And of course, the day that we walk into the first Hera City, cannot wait for you to be there with us.
It'll be so exciting. Yeah. Listen, thank you for having me, and I'm really excited to be part of the project, and anything we can do to help you get that, make that alive, we'll be there.
And thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Thank you all for watching and listening. And what can we all create together? This Hera movement is not about one person, one city, one environment. It really is about us all coming together globally for creating a greater humanity for all, and really putting in place the systems that allows all of this to thrive and not just be there for a few years. So thank you all. If you have any questions or comments or anything, please, or if you'd like to nominate an organization, harriscity.org, and click on the contact us page. And we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you again, Mairead. Talk to you
Yeah,
guys.
thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.